Welcome to the Frontline Herbalism podcast with your host Nicole Rose from the Solidarity Apothecary. This is your place for all things plants and liberation. Let's get started. Hello friends, how are you doing? I'm really sorry for the kind of break in the podcast in December. I had a kind of fantasy about being able to record shows while I was away, but it just didn't happen, which I'll explain in the podcast. So this week's episode is all about mallow, which is one of the herbs in the Prisoner's Herbal book, which I found in prison, which I became close with. And yeah, it's definitely one of my all-time favourite plants. I know I say that every week, but yeah, I hope you enjoy this segment about mallow. This kind of first part of the show, I'm actually going to be talking about what I've been doing the last 3 weeks. Before I dive in, I just wanted to give a bit of a kind of serious content warning that I'm going to be talking about what I've experienced in Palestine, what I've witnessed, people I've met, and yeah, I guess some of it is very heavy. It's a lot of state violence, references to murder, to imprisonment, to cancer. So yeah, I just wanted to flag that up before I dive in. So yeah, that's where I've been. I've been in Palestine for 3 weeks. I went with my partner, who is just an absolute anarchist heartthrob and mega babe. I have 2 amazing boyfriends, but one of them has been going to Palestine for over 20 years doing different solidarity work and organising, and I wanted to join him on this trip and meet his friends and comrades and like connect with this kind of whole region that he has this really deep relationship with. So we were there for 3 weeks. We had a base in Ramallah in the West Bank, and we also went down south a lot to the South Hebron Hills, and we also went to loads of other places like Tal Karam and the Jordan Valley and Nablus, and yeah, it kind of just felt like we spent the whole trip on a service, which is like these amazing little minibus things. And yeah, to be honest, like I only just got back home like the night before last. Yeah, it's just like I'm still processing it. It feels very disorientating to be back in England and to leave like that place and to have the privilege of being able to just fly away from it all when, yeah, people are still living under this horror of occupation. Yeah, so it was a bit of an eventful trip. The second day I actually ended up having a very severe allergic reaction, going into anaphylaxis, had to go to hospital, go on an IV. Yeah, it was like my worst nightmare for travelling. Like I'm really not a very confident traveller. I have a lot of kind of allergies, which, you know, as most of us know, is to do with kind of like chronic stress and childhood trauma and disordered immune system. But yeah, it was pretty scary. And it kind of like eclipsed the trip a little bit because I was paranoid about everything I was eating and I couldn't have food from the villages, which was really sad. And then I developed like a horrible chest infection, which I caught from my partner. And so, yeah, I just felt like the whole time I definitely wasn't at my best and it was like tough. And I missed my friends in England. I missed Sam and Kev in prison. I had a lot of grief around Taylor. But yeah, I feel proud of myself with support from friends that I was able to kind of like keep going. And yeah, just met like the most beautiful people. Sorry, I knew I'd get a bit emotional recording this. I cannot explain like the hospitality and the kindness. And like I always had this feeling of like, I don't know, like not wanting to go abroad because it felt like this real like hideous like white savior dynamic. And it also felt like something that lots of, I hate to say it, but lots of like more middle class people did, you know, like while the rest of us were trying to like survive and support friends in poverty and, you know, support friends in the prison system or deal with like the border regime here. It felt like lots of more middle class people would just kind of like go abroad, you know, to this like exciting exotic struggle. And I think that actually affected me being like a good internationalist, like in being an active internationalist. And I think I've had my eyes just like pulled wide open as to how much like international support. I mean, you know, I do know this, like I am an internationalist. I do a lot of international solidarity work and prisoner support internationally and sharing people's different call outs. And like, you know, I'm not like just exclusively UK focused, but yeah, like I mean in the sense of like physically going somewhere, like I just really realised like how much people value like attention from the international community and how much people need people to pressure Israel and other people in order to like stop the like brutality and to end the occupation. And I just kind of, it was just amazing to experience that firsthand, of actually feeling like genuinely welcome and appreciated. And one man in one of the villages where they're resisting demolitions, like we went there, we'd visited and then we'd left to go and do podcast interviews, and then came back a few days later and interviewed him, and his brother had his leg broken by settlers, and he said, like, do you want us to die? Like, because he knows that if an internationalist is there with a camera filming, that there is much less chance of violence. Another person was attacked really badly by settlers, and the police arrested him for attempted murder. And thankfully, like, an internationalist had filmed the whole thing, like half an hour of this kind of situation, and it showed that he got attacked and he wasn't to blame. And the organizer, Sammy, was like, yeah, you've saved my dad from like years in prison. So yeah, it was very life-changing for me to see like that kind of like welcomeness, and that, just that kind of like heartbeat of internationalism and why it's so important. Yeah, and we were very, very lucky that I did a bit of protection magic, of course, but we were very lucky that we didn't kind of like witness anything like too harrowing like ourselves, in the sense of, I was like really preparing for like tear gas and shootings, like the occupying forces have been using live ammunition on demos and in other situations, and I was just expecting, okay, maybe I'll get arrested, maybe I'll get deported. Like, I kind of prepared myself for all these things, and then we just seemed to like evade it, if that makes sense. Like, we would turn up somewhere and then leave and then find out something had happened, or it was like a very strange trip, if that makes sense. My partner said it was like the only time he's ever been where he hasn't had to directly be involved in a situation. So I was very grateful in that respect. But I think even just like listening to people and seeing the situation on the ground, like, it's really, it's like a lot in and of itself, But we recorded these podcast interviews, and we're going to be launching a kind of like standalone series for the International Solidarity Movement, because they're really, really desperate for people to come. There's only a couple of people on the ground, and they need many more people in order to support all the different places under threat. So that podcast, I will announce it on here, but I think it's going to be done hopefully this month. We're going to kind of launch it in batches. But we did some amazing interviews with different people from different villages who are facing demolitions. While we were there, school was demolished, and people's homes are under attack, and people are under attack by people in the settlements in the South Hebron Hills. So we have some interviews with people from that region, including a youth organisation that focuses specifically on organising with young people, and they're really amazing. And we've also got an interview with some folks who are ISM volunteers who've been there for like nearly 3 months, to kind of, so people can get like a feeling of what it's like. There was lots of like prison-y things. One of the first days we went to a demonstration in support of some mothers from a place called Sheikh Jarrah in East Jerusalem, and their children are looking at years in prison. They've been tortured in prison for defending themselves against settlers. And we interviewed them, and that was, this woman said about her son trying to kill himself and she was like, I don't know how he will be after he gets out of prison. And there was just this like raw insight into how prison like changes you and traumatizes you. And it was really like beautiful to connect with her in their campaign. We also interviewed someone from an organisation called Adamir, who do huge amounts of prisoner support and kind of documentation around like abuse in prisons. And we have some really good questions about abolition and different things. And we also talked to people from a martyrs organisation. The kind of like martyrs situation, it's like a martyr is kind of anyone that the occupation kills. It's obviously also people who resist, who die in resistance, but it's people who, have been killed by the occupying forces. And when we were there were like a number of deaths that occurred. People saw in the news about a 16-year-old called Jana who was shot by snipers in Jenin. She was getting her cat off a roof and was shot multiple times. And there's been no accountability for this. Like Israel are like, oh, it was an accident. But yeah, she fell, and in Palestine they have this like incredible tradition where they actually carry people's bodies like on the street and have these like huge demonstrations to kind of like honor their fallen people. And I think it was like very, sorry, I don't know why I'm so tired, very emotional today. It was very beautiful because like I felt since Taylor died that there wasn't that much like outrage, it was like very difficult to honor him. Like people translated the post and things like this, and we had one demo, but other than that it kind of like fell on silent ears. And I know the context is like vastly different, like Palestine is a huge population of people who've been occupied a very long time, who've experienced like unimaginable amounts of trauma and violence and oppression. So, they have like cultures and rituals to celebrate people who have died and to honor their dead. Another person who died was a man called Nasser Abu Hamid, and he died of cancer. He'd done 20 years in prison, and absolute medical neglect, didn't get treatment, and they're still fighting for his body. That was something I learned, was that Israel like holds people's bodies and doesn't give them back to the families as a kind of like weapon of oppression. Yeah, we interviewed someone from a Martyrs Association who is fighting for the body of his brother who has died, and it was very, very moving. And the day that this man died, there was like huge demonstrations in multiple cities. There was a general strike. All these like shops closed down and everything shut down. And it was like a really amazing like public, I don't mean amazing in like a good way, I mean an amazing in like a beautiful, moving way, that, the whole population just honoured him. Yeah, so that was really intense. And I also did a really awesome interview with someone from the Palestinian Medical Relief Society. And they've trained like over 180,000 people in first aid skills in order to respond to occupation violence. Yeah, they're just fucking incredible. Like the amount of kind of like mutual aid work is just mind-blowing, and it's like really grassroots. And I'm gonna publish that interview like on this podcast. Also met people from the Jordan Valley Solidarity and saw kind of their lives in terms of resisting occupation, and also like having this amazing growing project. Like I was like so sick and I was a bit citied out, if I'm honest, and then we went to the Jordan Valley, and Rashid, the person who lives there, like has this amazing base where volunteers can stay, and just like so many amazing plants. Like literally we're eating bananas like from the trees, and I got to see plants like mallow, which I'll talk about today, and all different herbs. He was explaining me about different types of thyme and sage in the region, and yeah, it was like, oh, it was so nice. Like, and they had these two super cute puppies, so that definitely helped. But yeah, I'm going to be talking about how ISM really need people, but also Jordan Valley Solidarity, like they, the farmers there who are, it's mostly horticultural, like really appreciate support. So if there's any kind of like herbalisty, agroecology, permaculture type folks who are interested in volunteering there, I know they would really appreciate you. It would definitely be top of my list in terms of like an amazing place to stay where you can see, the occupation, but you can also kind of have this little amazing growing project to spend time in. We also interviewed some women organisers, including someone from a women's union in Palestine, about how kind of like gender-based violence reproduces itself in Palestine, and how this is connected to the occupation as well. But yeah, so anyway, I really look forward to launching the podcast. I'm kind of going to be doing lots of editing. Unfortunately, things are a little bit delayed because I've got to go to Calais this week. I normally go the first week of the month, so I'm going to be there doing first aid and work with our like mobile herbal clinic. But yeah, when I get back, I'm going to try and do like much more posts about Palestine on my Instagram, and going to be designing graphics for this podcast, and doing all the things. I really left there feeling like I wanted to come back and help encourage people to go. Like I said at the beginning, like people really value internationalists there, and the culture is so welcoming and loving and kind. And to be honest, like I felt very safe, not in terms of the occupation, but in terms of just people looking out for me. Like I was expecting a lot more sort of like street harassment or sexual harassment, which didn't happen. I mean, maybe the odd comment, but like nothing that I was expecting. And it was, I think a lot of like bougie gentrification is happening in cities like Ramallah. Like we were totally able to find like all the, bougie vegan food we needed, like soy milk and stuff. Couldn't find tofu, but everything else. I had a lot of rice and beans. But yeah, definitely really, yeah, like I said, just really welcoming. And, you know, like it's obviously an occupation. So you're driving and there's like checkpoints and there's soldiers with guns and, you know, like every other day someone gets killed. And so, yeah, there is this like constant hostility from the occupation in terms of raids and also from settlers, in terms of like violence and aggression and targeting people. So, you know, it's not like going on a holiday to Magaluf, you know, like it is a different thing. But I do think, not that I've ever been to Magaluf, by the way. I don't even know where, is it in Spain? I'm not sure. Anyway, what I'm saying is like they really value people on the ground. You can get a visa for up to 3 months. There's training, there's support. Yeah, and I think, you know, they were really, really affected, ISM, by the pandemic and by people not coming. And I think, you know, with the election of people in Palestine, in Israel, sorry, like very right-wing politicians, like it does feel like things are moving in a terrifying direction. I mean, they've already been in a terrifying direction for a really long time, but yeah, I think if you can be there and your presence means that someone doesn't get attacked or someone doesn't end up in prison or someone's home doesn't get demolished, then that's like a really amazing act. And I think it was very frustrating for people there who, you know, when there was only 1 or 2 people, that they couldn't really do much. They had to just film. They weren't able to, you know, block bulldozers or anything else. But with much bigger groups of people, like much more is possible. So yeah, I just want to encourage people to check that out. The ISM website is palsolidarity.org. Feel free to message me with any questions as well. And yeah, this episode is all about mallow. And mallow was actually one of the herbs that I found in Palestine, and I was so happy to see it because I had this horrific chest infection, and mallow was just so soothing and comforting to me, and just like emotionally to see it there. Mallow is one of the tattoos on my arm, so I hope you enjoy the episode about mallow. Oh yeah, I didn't say about prison, but you know what? I've decided not to talk about it because we're going to do a much bigger call out when we have confirmed a few more details. But basically there was another death in Eastwood Park where Taylor was, and yeah, just horrific circumstances. Someone burnt to death. So yeah, it's really awful. I will talk about it next week, I think. But for now, please enjoy mallow. Please check out the ISM website, and I hope you have a really good New Year's Eve. I hope you're all outside prisons tonight making noise. I hope you've had a good time with your families, and I mean families in the broadest way in terms of chosen family, your best friends, your comrades, your lovers. And yeah, I will see you next year. Mallow. Okay, I'm doing it again about favourite plants, but this kind of plant family are just so outstanding medicinally. Just absolutely beautiful. One of the herbs on my sleeve. But yeah, let's dive into them. So, Latin name, Malva sylvestris. Plant family, Malvaceae. Mallow family. Identification, tall and upright, up to 1 metre, or rather creeping. Leaves are up to 12 centimetre across, long stalks, and commonly a dark spot on the base of the leaf blade. Flowers are 2.5 to 4 centimetres across. If you see a flower that's like 4.2 centimetres, just let me know. Just joking. I feel bad, like I love botany a lot, but it's so reductionist. Anyway, okay, mallows have 5 flower petals. The flowers of common mallow are whitish to light pink in colour and have pink stripes running up each petal on the flower. Mallow flowers are bisexual, meaning both the female and male reproductive plants are in every flower. In the centre of the flower, the pistil sticks out. The ovary is located at the base of the petals and eventually ripens to produce the cheese wheel-like fruits. The fruits are circular and look like a miniature round block of cheese. Vegan cheese, obviously. Just joking. Okay, other species. The most commonly used species of mallow family for medicinal purposes is marshmallow, Althea officinalis. However, there are many related useful species, including musk mallow, dwarf mallow, cheeseweed mallow, bull mallow, hibiscus, hollyhock, desert scarlet globe mallow, okra, Indian mallow, jingma, cacao and cotton are also part of the mallow family. Other species of the British Isles include Cornish mallow, rough mallow and tree mallow. Folk names in English. High mallow, tall mallow, blue mallow, cheesecake. Malva comes from the Greek word maloxus, meaning slimy or to soften. Chemical constituents: flavonoids, mucilages, terpenoids, phenol derivatives, enzymes, sulfate oxidase, coumarins, vitamins, tocopherols, vitamin E, and ascorbic acid, vitamin C, fatty acids, sterols. Pigments: chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, and xanthophylls. Food and nutrition. The leaves, flowers, and roots have a long history of edible use, spanning continents over thousands of years. The leaves can be used as a vegetable. They are a great thickening addition for soups. The flowers can be added to salad. Mallow water has been used as a vegan egg substitute. The root can also be blended with water and then strained to make creamy, nutritious plant milk. Mallow is high in calcium, vitamin A, and iron, as well as dietary fiber, magnesium, selenium, and vitamin C. Ecological role. Common mallow is commonly found on waste ground, footpaths, meadows, moist ground, and roadsides. Mallow's strong roots can help aerate and fertilize degraded soils. Katrina Blair writes how mallow can be a great midwife to other plants, as well as mallows can be susceptible to several fungal colonies, including mallow rust, which causes dark orange-coloured bumps to appear on the underside of leaves. The cause of this fungus is often from an overly moist environment and a dense thicket of mallow. Herbalists Julie and Matthew Seal highlight that the low-growing leaves tend to accumulate heavy metals from vehicle exhausts. For example, if they're growing on the side of the road. Cultivation and harvesting. Mallow is very easy to grow from seed and is adaptable to most soils. Mallow leaves are best harvested when the stems are bright green and healthy looking. Beware of rusted leaves. It's ideal if the plants can be used fresh because of their water and mucilaginous content. However, they can be dry too. They will lose about 1/3 of their mucilaginous quantities. The roots are best harvested in the autumn when they have more mucilage. Energetics. Temperature, neutral to cooling depending on the constitution. Moisture, moist. Tissue state, dry atrophy, heat excitation, wind tension. Taste, sweet and salty. Herbal actions. Antibacterial, mild astringent, demulcent, diuretic, emollient, expectorant, inflammation modulating, and laxative. Health challenges supported by common mallow. J.T. Burgess wrote in 1868 that the uses of mallow are infinite. The fresh or dried leaves are best infused in cold water to preserve their mucilaginous content and drunk for the treatment of the digestive, respiratory, and urinary tracts. A fresh herb and root tincture can also be made, however this mucilaginous herbal action will be significantly affected. Some of the health challenges supported by common mallow include digestive issues. Mallows are mildly astringent, which means they help tone the mucosal membranes and the skin. It also has a vulnerary action with an ability to staunch mild bleeding. Combined with its soothing, emollient, and moisturizing properties, you can see why it is useful for people who have patterns of heat and inflammation in their digestive tract. This includes ulcers, gastritis, colitis, and enteritis, as well as Crohn's disease. It can also support people to recover from leaky gut syndrome, commonly caused by prolonged use of non-steroidal anti-inflammatories such as aspirin, antibiotics, the pill, recreational drugs, high sugar, and highly processed diets. Mallows, marshmallow in particular, can also support with heartburn and issues of gastrointestinal reflux. In digestive challenges, the strong herbal infusion is the most effective as you want to cover as much surface area as possible. Likewise, for inflamed conditions such as hemorrhoids, mallow can bring relief. Herbalist Sage Poppin recommends sitz baths, especially. Respiratory infections. The herb is a powerful demulcent for coughs, colds, sore throats, asthma, and chest troubles. Sage writes that marshmallow, the most commonly used member of the mallow family, soothes, calms, cools, and moisturizes a respiratory system that is overly inflamed, hot, and tense. It tends to relax excessive spasm in the smooth muscles lining the entire tract and increase mucus secretions from the membranes. Mallow is for respiratory conditions that are hot and dry. Sore throats. Mallow can help soothe sore throats, especially those that are hot and dry and in need of moisture and cooling. The flowers are commonly made into a syrup for this purpose. Urinary tract infections. In a similar way to the above, mallow helps to soothe the inflamed tissues in the mucosal membranes of the urinary tract. The leaves, rather than the roots, are more commonly used for UTI infections, and they also have a diuretic effect. Marshmallow is commonly used by herbalists to help relieve conditions such as cystitis, urethritis, and nephritis. Just want to note again, this is just an overview, and you're not going to treat a kidney infection like nephritis with marshmallow without kind of support from a clinical herbalist, if that makes sense. Something like cystitis, that could be a DIY thing in prison, but I just wanted to flag that up. Toothache. Mallow flowers can be chewed to relieve toothache. Insect bites, boils and abscesses, sores, cuts, bruises, or general skin complaints. You can chop or chew the fresh leaf and apply directly as a poultice. Burns. Marshmallow leaves, but any mallow leaf you can access in an emergency, have also been used in traditional burn care after common first aid practices are followed. Mallow leaves traditionally have been combined with olive oil for the prevention of blistering. Cosmetic skincare. Katrina Blair says that mallow is celebrated in our community as one of the best skincare remedies around. As a face wash and healing mask, it repairs sun damage and rejuvenates the skin. It makes a wonderful green facial mask that removes skin blemishes and irritation amazingly quickly. Mallow leaf and flower can also be made into herbal oils to soothe and regenerate the skin. Sore or strained eyes. Mallow can also be made into an infusion for bathing inflamed eyes. Musculoskeletal system. While not famous for its affinity with the musculoskeletal system, many herbalists include mallow in their mixes because of its moistening effect on people with joint pain linked to dryness. Also, a lot of musculoskeletal issues can be linked directly to inflammation in the gut. In the case of my ribcage, food intolerances were a major culprit. Mallow can be used to support inflamed tissues. Immune system. Another less-known affinity of mallow is its support for the immune system because of its actions on the mucous membranes. Soja describes how the presence of polysaccharides indicates an immunological quality, as commonly these sugar compounds are seen as similar to bacteria or other pathogens by the immune system, thus triggering it into a heightened state of activity. It's also important to remember that the mucosa is laden with white blood cells and immunity to protect the body from pathogenic invasion. Thus, by simple virtue of increasing mucosal secretions, immunity is enhanced. Cautions. In large doses, mallow can be laxative and purgative. While it can take a while to get to grips with the concepts of energetics, it is important to remember that mallow is not ideal to give to people with cold, wet, damp conditions, unless skillfully combined with other warming herbs. How to practically use mallow in prison. Where you might find mallow. I used to find mallow in the stony areas in full sun, often at the edges of curbs and walkways within the prison. Digestive inflammation. For people with stomach ulcers, gastritis, colitis, enteritis, Crohn's disease, gastrointestinal reflux, heartburn, etc., drink a cold infusion, ideally of the roots if you can, but the leaves are also great if not. Do this for 6 weeks and then take a break. Continue as needed. Hemorrhoids. Add the leaves to a sitz bath where you're basically placing your ass in the water. I love how I wrote it like that. Okay, ideally some kind of tub, bowl, large enough for you, or if your wing has a bath, you could add the leaves to the water. Or to make it stronger, make a cold infusion first in cups, bottles, any container you can get, and let it infuse for as long as you can, and then add it to the bath water. If a sitz bath is not an option, you could also mash up some leaves with a bit of water and place directly. You could also make a small poultice or pad and place in your underwear. Coughs, colds, asthma and chest troubles. Drink the cold infusion. Sore throats. Drink a cold infusion. Eating flowers directly can also help. Urinary tract infections. Make a cold infusion and drink as much as possible, at least 2 to 3 times per day for conditions such as cystitis and urethritis. Toothache. Chew a mallow leaf. Insect bites, boils, abscesses, sores, cuts, bruises or general skin complaints. Chew the fresh leaf and apply it directly to the skin, holding it in place for as long as you need until you have pain relief or the swelling subsides. Burns. After doing the necessary first aid, see wound section for more detail, mallow leaves can also be placed on the skin for minor burns. You can also make a compress with a cold infusion of mallow and wrap around the affected area. Face mask. Make a strong cold infusion with mallow leaves or flowers, apply damp leaves to the face and allow to sit there, then remove and wash your face with the infusion. Sore eyes. Make a cold infusion with the leaves and use it as an eye wash. I know it's unlikely that you'll have an eye bath available in prison. One option is to save those little plastic cups that they give out during medication. Make sure it is super clean and then pour the infusion into that and wash your eye in it. Thanks so much for listening to the Frontline Herbalism podcast. You can find the transcript, the links, all the resources from the show at solidarityApothecary.org/podcast.